Tracy Morgan story, which is the best story I think ever.
Okay.
And it's the first time I met Tracy Morgan, and I told that, and it drama arose around it, but Tracy heard it and he didn't remember it and he said that never happened, and that bummed me out so much. And then one day recently, I got a FaceTime from Tracy Morgan, and he was like, you know, I heard you have a story about me. I said, I do. He said, I'd like to hear that story. I was like, okay. And so I flew to New York.
You couldn't tell him over FaceTime?
No, listen. You want to hear a story, I'll fly to you. If it's Tracy fucking Morgan, dude, listen, goats are goats, right?
Yes.
No shade on any comic. Chris Rock has to understand this. He's a brilliant comic. He's the reason I got into stand-up. That Bring the Pain is the best special I've ever seen in my entire life to date. And I know that Chappelle's are just getting better, but I mean, Bring the Pain, Tracy Morgan's on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy Morgan is funny 100% of the time and 100% of the things he does. He can make eating crackers funny. I watched the man eat Chick-fil-A and he had me rolling. I mean, the guy is he is comedy incarnate.
Okay.
So the fact that I had any kind of beef or any tension with Tracy Morgan broke my heart. I'm such a fan of his. So when he says to me, I'd like to hear that story, I said, I'll fly to New York, I'll tell it to you. So I flew to New York. I sat down with him. I told him the story. He remembered. He corrected me on a couple parts of it. We laughed hysterically. And he looked at me. He goes, "You have my permission to tell that story." And I went, that was like, wow. Oh, it was like the greatest. It's the greatest feeling I've ever had. I was with my buddy Ari Shaffir, had helped set that meeting up.
Right.
And even Ari and I, when we went out and started drinking immediately, it was like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. We went out drinking and we're like, can you believe that just happened?
Wow.
And he's like, so many people thought you made that up. And I could never make it up. It's too funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tracy. Tracy is just, anything around him is hysterical. But people always thought the Russian mafia one just made it up. But by the way, off to the side, if I do make these up, then just maybe I'm a masterful storyteller.
Right.
But I didn't.
Right.
Like that's the sadness of me is you already heard it. I'm pulling from, I barely recognize.
Previous experience.
Yeah, and so I was doing Loveline with Dr. Drew, probably 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And someone called up, one of the callers, and they're like, hey, caller, you have any questions? And they're like, no, Bert, why don't you tell the story about the time you robbed your friends on a train in Russia? And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, yeah.
Really?
And Drew's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I robbed the train with the Russian mafia. And he was like, wait, what? And I told the story for the very first time there on Loveline. Probably the purest that story is. You're ever going to hear that story? That's bare bones of my memory. Wow. And Dr. Drew said to me, this is your story. This is your movie. And he asked me to come back the next night. And the next night I came back on Loveline again. This is when Loveline was like on the charts.
It was crazy.
And he said, tell the story one more time. And I told it again that night. And then I told it like Elliot in the Morning. I told it on Cowhead. I told it on a couple places that like my friends were, where it was like a safe place. And then I did Rogan for the first time. And I just casually said, not thinking like, he was like, you got great stories. I go, well, next time I'm here, let me tell you about the time I got involved with the Russian mafia and robbed a train. And he was like, what? And he called me like a week later. He's like, dude, come on the podcast again. This is old school Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, this is like when he did it at his house. So I went and I told that story, and he said to me, that's your story. You need to tell it on stage. I was never going to tell it on stage.
Right.
It's a 13-minute story, 12-minute story. Mm-hmm. Stand-up comedy should be done in small bites. Long-form comedy was not, no one was doing that. Not Chris Rock, not Kat, and I mean that with respect.
Yeah.
No one was doing 13-minute bits.
Right.
Maybe Kat was, I don't know. But and so I worked on this story. I went to Columbus, Ohio, and I told it the first time there. And then I kept working on it, and it just would bomb, and it would bomb, and it would bomb. And then one day it started getting better, and then one day I found an ending to the story. But yeah, and then here's the funny part. The really interesting part is I thought I'd milked it, right?
Yeah.
I'd gotten it. I told it on my special. I did a Showtime special. I put it there, and I was like, all right, everyone that's seen it's going to see it. It's got 3 million views from Rogan, 3 million views on this other thing. It's good. And then I posted it December 27th, 2016, I think, on Facebook. Just, like I just took it off my special, posted it. And one of the first people to leave a comment was this woman. And her comment was, it was like the very first comment you'd see. And it was, I was in Bert's Russian class. I was on this trip to Russia. This story's 100% true. He robbed us. And then she tagged everyone in my class in that post. And then they started posting pictures of the Russian trip. And everyone was like, this is and people were just chiming in, direct messaging these people like, this is a true story. And people were like, yeah, this is a true story, he robbed us. And they're like, wait, hold on, do you have a picture of the gangster, of Igor? And they're like, yeah, here's a picture of Igor and Bert arm wrestling. And it became this like big chat thread.
Wow.
And that story went viral. And that went viral like crazy. I've never had anything like that in my life. I never will have anything like that. I'll never notice anything like that. I mean, the first night was like 3 million views, and the next night's 5 million, then 7 million, then 9 million, 12 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million. And then all of a sudden it's like every show's sold out, you're going to theaters, then theaters are sold out. And then I kept saying, I'll retire the story when I stop doing bigger venues.
Right.
As long as my venues are getting bigger, that means it's new people.
Right.
That
They've
have
never heard the
story
for the first time.
And then you're doing what, 35,000 at the Gorge, and you're like, well, I guess I'm telling it here.
Right.
And then you're doing arenas, and I'm on my third arena tour right now, and you're like, but here's the deal. One of my favorite comics in the world is Ron White. His tater salad story is one of the best stories I've ever heard in my entire life, and every time I see him do stand up, I just want to hear him tell it. It's like there's certain things I like.
Yeah, it's like your favorite singer. You want to hear him sing. You want to hear him sing.
And it's not cool. It's not supposed to be like that. But like if I see Cat,
yeah,
and Cat comes up to me right before, and he goes, "Is there anything you want to see?" I go, "Oh my God, can you just do all of Pimp Chronicles?" Or like if Chris Rock's like, "Hey man, I'm going on stage. Is there any joke you'd like to hear?" I go, "Oh, black people versus," What are we talking about? Yeah, I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that in person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I feel as like a comic. I go, I want to make sure they get their money's worth.
But you stole a boat.
We stole a boat, yeah. We
have you not heard stories of the Russian prison?
No, hang on. So just so we're clear, this is 1995. So no one knew about what was going on. I mean, communism fell in 88, right? This is 2000. But this is 95.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all we knew about Russians is like they didn't have toilet paper and they waited in line for bread, right? And that's all we knew.
Yeah.
And then we went over there, and my teacher came back, and she had we were flying on a Delta flight. I was in like row 35. I was in the back. I know that sounded like flying in the back of planes. And she sat next to me, and she goes, "I need to show you something." And she undid her pants, and she pulled out an inside fanny pack, and it had cash. I said, "What's that?" She goes, "We're paying off the mafia to keep us safe, and we're all smuggling money in." And I went, "This trip just got awesome." I was like, "Are you being serious?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm freaking out. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to be a blast. This is going to be like this." The mafia, and they told us that the mafia runs this city.
Yeah.
They ran it. There was a magazine, a newspaper out at the time of these two Americans. I wish someone would find it, and it's really fascinating. And they were seeing how much, at one point they said, "I wonder if we could put a body in the trunk and get pulled over by the cops. I wonder how much it would cost to pay them off." And it was so little that they're like, by the end, they just had a head on their dashboard. Like, it was like crazy. It was lawless.
Wow.
It was lawless. And so we got there, and they told us that. They're like, "This is lawless. These guys are going to stay with you. They'll walk you to class. Don't go out on your own. Don't go. I mean, you can like explore around the neighborhood, but don't go. It's a different world." And I remember one year, one day, it's the Russian May Day. It's the day everyone goes out on the Kiev River and they go into the Gulf of Finland on boats. And my next door neighbor was the mafia guy, Igor, and I had the room right next to him. And I used to go over every morning and see what's up. And I went over, and all his boys were in there, either eating dried fish, drinking Baltikas. And I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "Hey, sit down, pойдем," And I was like, "Hey," and I said, "We're going on a boat today." And he's been drinking all night. He goes, "No boat." I said, what? And he goes, we have no boat. It's the busiest day on the river. How do I get boat? I was like, well, my whole class is in ponchos with wrist seasickness bands on. They think we're going on a boat today. And he goes, I have no boat. And his buddies are like, we have no boat. And I was like, we have no boat? And he's like, no boat. Teacher comes down and is like, hey, are we ready to go on the boat? And then all of them are like, let's go. And they all just grab the cases of beer and the dried fish, and we start walking to the Kev River, which was like 2 blocks away from us. And all of a sudden, out of an alleyway, comes one of Igor's buddies. And he comes sprinting, goes, Igor, we have boat. He goes, we have boat? He goes, I've got the boat. Igor hits me, he goes, we've got the boat. I'm like, we've got the boat. We get there, and there's the perfect boat. And the best way to describe this boat is like the boat from Sid and Nancy that the Sex Pistols took out on the river and played God Save the Queen. That's the boat. That's the boat.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. We walk on the dock, we load up, we put beer in there, and the dock master comes down and he's like, gentlemen, I need papers for boat. And Igor's buddy lifts up his shirt, shows a gun, he goes, here are papers. And the guy's like, all right, have it back by 3. And so we stole a boat.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I remember telling my teacher, I was like, yo, his buddy has a gun. And she was like, oh, that's not good. I was like, no shit. She was like, well, they seem to like you. You hang out with them. And so I hung out with this guy, partied on the bottom of a boat.
You plan on going back to Russia?
Never.
Want to join Club Shay Shay? Become an official member by hitting that subscribe button, where you never know who's going to be joining us for drinks and conversation. Don't be late to the party, because you know we like to do something before 2 something.